Generally, in the television world, you're shooting anywhere between 7 and 12 pages of dialogue a day. So that's a lot of work that you have to cram into a 12 to 14-hour day. In the feature world, you work at a lot of different paces. On low budget features, you might be doing 7 to 10 pages a day, but on bigger budget features, you might be shooting 3 pages a day. You might be shooting 1 page a day. So on the feature world, you might have a lot more time for setup, for rehearsal, for focus marks, for lighting. In the television world, you might have a quarter or a tenth of the amount of time that you might have on features. So you have to sort of scale your working speed but still maintaining the high level of quality of your work. So it becomes very tricky in the television world when you're getting 2, 3, 4 cameras going at the same time, and all those cameras need to be wired and plugged into a video feed, and you're changing locations 3 to 4 times a day, loading everything onto a truck, off the truck. Where's the power? Where's the cable? Where's this camera going? Where's that camera going? Oh, I can't reach that camera, so we have to go wireless. Oh, this one has to be hardwired. And you have to be able to make these decisions in a very, very rapid pace to be able to get all of the images up so the director and the DP can see them.
Typically with TV, you're in a controlled environment most of the time. You're on a studio or maybe a studio backlot. With a feature, you're constantly moving locations. So one minute you're in a neighborhood, maybe the next you're in a shopping mall, you're in a downtown business center, or you could be out in the desert. So it fluctuates greatly day to day compared to that of television.
The conventional way, that most episodic television, I'm speaking from episodic, I'm actually doing file-based multi-camera workflows now. The cameras I use in multicam used to be tape, are now file-based. In that particular case, and that would be interesting to kind of talk about, in multi-camera and file-based multi-camera production, there is no ingestion on set of the files. The cards are actually just handed off. The cards are a larger file size though, so they hold more media. They can hold 90 minutes worth of media. So in this, you're using less cards to hand off. So on a typical day, we'll probably reload the cameras once, maybe twice. But in that sense, we're handing off the media for ingestion in post. There is no on-set data management in multi-camera file-based acquisition. In single camera, there is. And it's all judged upon the camera system you're using and the volume of storage that you're going to be using. So if you're in the 4K architecture with, let's say, the F55, you're going to use more media. So you're going to need more storage on set. So you could go anywhere from 6 to 8 terabytes. Some DITs have 20 terabytes on set for storage. Some DITs have LTOs that they archive with. It's way more sophisticated than when I first started in tape-based.
Due to the constant moving, company moves for a feature, it will affect how you work as a DIT. It affects your workflow, so you really have to pattern your workflow with some kind of strict organization, bearing in mind the moves that you will be making on a day-to-day basis. If you're moving and you're unaware of a move and you're right in the middle of a backup from camera media to your master backup drives for production, you'll have to stop that, because there's no way that the troupe is going to sit and wait for you until you finish. You may take another 30 to 40 minutes. Well, you're on the clock, everyone else is on the clock, and when time is precious, they're losing daylight, or they're losing a moment, or they're losing their schedule. The last thing they want is for you to hold that up. So you will have to tailor-make your particular workflow to match that of your production.
So with music videos as a DIT, really you're more of a data manager than anything, because a lot of times it's really, really tight as far as their schedule and the amount of shots that they have. On an average film shoot, you'll have maybe 3 pages of stuff that you've got to do, whereas on a music video, you're usually working with 8 to 10. So they're constantly pushing through shots. So the main thing that I make sure with any music video is I have access to drives that are eSATA or better. No way would I do anything less, because they're constantly going through cards. And music videos, especially in the independent circuit, are usually very low budget. So whereas on a bigger budget project, you might have 8 cards, a lot of the music videos that I do, I end up with 2 or 3 cards. So you constantly have to be recycling those cards and getting them back to them as quick as possible.
Depending on the needs of the show. For example, on Amazing Spider-Man, we had 3 DITs, a loader, and a digital utility with an additional utility for large days, and that was a 3D show. So we had a total of about 8 cameras or so, 3 rigs working, and a couple other backup bodies. And we were constantly, this is the first feature on Red Epic. So we were constantly working with the Red folks to update software, to put cameras through, that kind of thing. On a large show, I can justify that because the technical hurdles are large. But yet on a larger show, I'm purely on set. I am the person on set that the lab, the post-production house, the studio, I report to multiple people, but when I'm having conversations in pre-production, I am talking directly with the vice president of post-production for the studio. And so on and so. There's other gradients in between that I speak with on a day-to-day, but on a large show, that's who I'm talking to directly. They're saying, hey, you're going to do this, right? And on a larger show, I'm here to here. Dane, you're from the camera to you handing off that hard drive. That's where you work. I have minimal influence beyond where that mag or that hard drive leaves set, other than to say it's on its way. Smaller shows, and what I mean by smaller, I mean 70 million and under, I may have a more influential perspective or have more experience than the other people that I'm working with. I can work, I prefer to work with a data manager or a utility for running a lot of cables or something like that, or wireless systems for camera department, stuff like that. But traditionally, I usually have a loader. It's just me and a loader at some level. And I share that loader with the camera department too, by the way. They're not usually just mine or just handling data only, except on maybe a larger show. But we call them media managers at that point, and they're DITs in the union anyway. So.
Well, on multi-camera shows, I usually work it 2 ways. The last show I did was I basically tech managed, and I was in engineering, and we had a video controller, and I worked in tandem with him to make sure that what he needed he had, number one, and number two is if there was any troubleshooting to be done on the set, I would actually end up doing that. On the show that I'm starting now, the CBS pilot I'm doing now, next week, I'm doing a combo, and it's really a producer's preference. I'll be doing a combo which will encompass the 2 work skill sets, which is the video controller and the DIT, which I'll engineer the set, tech manage the set, do the installation, and then do the camera controlling, shading, calibration, iris setting. That skill set was involved with camera matching, making sure that the images are right for broadcast. The multi-camera shows, well, there's 2 ways to look at it. One of which is some shows, and it's not by choice, it's just the way it is with producers, but some shows allow us to do the combo work, which is a combination of a digital imaging tech and a video controller. Not only am I tech managing and engineering the show, but I'm also doing the camera shading. I'm setting the irises, making sure the exposures are correct, making sure the black levels are correct, making sure that the cameras match. And that's primarily the function throughout the day, making sure that the DP is happy with the images, that the images all completely match one another, which is done mostly in the prep, but there are trims that happen throughout various scenes as you go from scene to scene to scene. You're constantly trimming color, trimming blacks, trimming whites, and setting exposures. And that is all encompassing, especially when you're with a live audience. So if there is a camera failure, I can't do much of camera shading anyway unless the director decides to go with 3 cameras instead of 4. So the most part is when I'm doing a combo, I will stop everything I'm doing, go downstairs, and we'll figure it out. We probably more or less will either troubleshoot the camera on set without wasting too much technical downtime. But if not, then I usually have a spare camera body and we'll just change it out. Whereby then I have to go back upstairs into the colorist booth and quickly apply a scene file to the new camera so it matches the other 3. It's a much different configuration in the multicam world than it is in single camera DIT. The single camera DIT more or less creates a control room. I have a tent, I have a cart. The cart goes in the tent. I create a dark area where I can work on color shading and building lookup tables, LUTs as known, whereby that color information is taken from the and applied to the raw image based on, again, collaboration with the director or the producer, whoever wants to come in and change the look or this look, whatever their preference is, really. It's pre-visualizing the look prior to the color timing of the raw image